Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. I'm reading The Wheel of Time for the first time and sharing the experience with you. This is One Good Turn, The Eye of the World, and today I am covering Chapter 3. What a chapter, guys! We get word from the outside world via the peddler. May or may not end up causing a panic. We'll see. We meet Nanaeve. Can't say I'm fond of her yet. We open up again right after the previous chapter left off. A crowd is forming around the peddler. His name is Padden Fane, who's a lean guy. I guess he's a traveler who comes this way regularly. So he's friendly with some, less friendly with others. But he's known in the town, essentially. It's not some stranger. He's very much a storyteller. Rand thinks on different kinds of peddlers, some who just don't like to talk, and some who share too much or overly much. This particular guy, Fane, seems to be waiting for the crowd to get much larger so that he can tell his news. And then we get Perrin showing up and saying hi to Rand and Matt. So the group's getting together. He's Luhan's apprentice, and he's got the muscles to show for it. And he's a very polite guy as well. He doesn't just shove his way through the crowd. He's thoughtful about how he goes. And there's a fun little exchange in which he says, "Imagine it, Beltane and a peddler both together. I'll bet there really are fireworks." To which Matt laughs, "You don't know a quarter of it." Specific quarter there instead of half, which is noteworthy considering the amount of things these characters do and do not know. Perrin eyed him suspiciously, then looked a question at Rand. "It's true," Rand shouted, then gestured at the growing mass of people, all giving voice. "Later, I'll explain later. Later, I said." And it's one of those cringe, awkward moments that before there had been a lot of noise, so they were speaking loudly to be heard. But enough people had gathered for Fane, and everyone had just quieted down for Fane, and suddenly it was Rand shouting by himself. I think many of us know what it's like to be in that situation. I felt really bad for him. He has a worry that getting on Fane's bad side there will diminish him in Fane's eyes back to that of a child. Essentially, Fane doesn't pay attention to kids because kids aren't going to be buying stuff from him, and it was only recently that Fane had started considering Rand and his friends adults. So that was what bred that concern. Fane says, "No, not later. I will be telling you now. You are thinking you have had troubles in the Two Rivers, are you? Well, all the world has troubles. From the Great Blight south to the Sea of Storms, from the Aerith Ocean in the west to the Ale Waste in the east, and even beyond. The winter was harsher than you've ever seen before, cold enough to gel your blood and crack your bones. Ha ha ha! Winter was cold and harsh everywhere. In the borderlands, they'd be calling your winter spring. But spring does not come, you say? Wolves have killed your sheep? Perhaps wolves have attacked men. Is that the way of it? Well now, spring is late everywhere. There are wolves everywhere, all hungry for any flesh they can sink a tooth into, be it sheep or cow or man. But there are things worse than wolves or winter. There are those who would be glad to have only your little troubles." Senbui interrupts, asking what's worse, and the peddler continues. "Men killing men. It is war, I mean. There is war in Gaeldon, war and madness. The snows of the Dallin Forest are red with the blood of men. Ravens and the cry of ravens fill the air. Armies march to Gaeldon. Nations, great houses, and great men send their soldiers to fight." And yes, war is concerning. That does not necessarily mean evil war. Could be a border dispute, could be any number of things. But the second I read ravens and the cries of ravens fill the air, I feel that ominous feeling again. This book feels so ominous all the time. It's really interesting. It's like I'm always at like an 8 reading this. Who's the guy in the hood? Where are the ravens? What's up with winter? It's really engaging in that way, I think. Master Alvir asks why they're having a war, and Fane says, "The standard of the dragon has been raised, and men flock to oppose and to support." Everyone gasps, and Rand shivers. It's really emphasized in this chapter how divisive a figure the dragon is, because there are some that feel he did, in the past turning, I guess, destroy the world. So he essentially is equivalent to many folks in this chapter to the Dark One. And first off, I wonder if that's the same each turning. Again, I don't know exactly how different each turning is supposed to be, or if it was a unique victory of the last turning that the Dark One was able to orchestrate the public's turn against the dragon. I would like to know more about that. But also the fact that Fane is invoking ravens and the dragon, if I, as the reader, am supposed to presume, particularly based off of the prologue and the Ravens chapter, that the dragon is ultimately good, I come to the conclusion that whoever this proposed dragon is ultimately a false dragon. Which then sets my mind wondering, why would someone claim to be the dragon, particularly if the dragon is so associated with the Dark One? It could be an intimidation tactic for the sake of power, or any number of things. Someone shouts out, "The dragon! The Dark One's loose in Galdon!" So, as I have said, the two are synonymous, essentially, at least to this person. Master Luhan pipes up, calling it a false dragon. The mayor tries to calm everyone, but everyone is freaking out. You get little bits of lore. The dragon is just as bad as the Dark One. The dragon broke the world, didn't he? He started it. He caused the time of madness. You know the prophecies. When the dragon is reborn, your worst nightmares will seem like your fondest dreams. He's just another false dragon, so this false dragon thing keeps repeating. And again, I think back to that Ravens chapter where one of the kids asked for a story about a false dragon. And here it is. We're getting a story about the false dragon. And someone shouts out, "It doesn't really matter if it's a false dragon or not. War is war. It's still bad. There's nothing good going on there, regardless of whether or not it's him or not." And interestingly, one of the most interesting bits of lore is no one claiming to be the dragon reborn for 20 years, and now 3 in the last 5 years. Evil times, look at the weather. So as it happens, I do believe the weather is connected to whatever shenanigans the Dark One is planning, but 3 in the last 5 years seems a big deal. Most false dragons seem to prove their falsehood by failing or dying at some point. And it is said that the world will end when the real dragon was born again. You can consider, the chicken or the egg argument. Is the dragon showing up because the world's ending, or is the world ending because the dragon showed up? Is a thought that I have. The mayor's shouting, trying to get everyone to stay calm, and Senbui shouts out, "Is this a false dragon?" He's called an old fool. He's accused of wanting to bring the Dark One down upon them. I think it's a fair question to ask. I don't know how likely it actually is that he is the dragon. I mean, I know exactly how likely it is because I know who the dragon reborn is. But in terms of what Senbui knows, I don't think it's an unreasonable question. Not that I would expect Fane to know either, but anyway, he gets some muddy accusations slung at him, but Sen looked around defiantly, trying to stare down the glowers, and raised his voice. "I didn't hear Fane say this was a false dragon, did you? Use your eyes. Where are the crops that should be knee-high or better? Why is it still winter when spring should be here a month? I will not be silent. I've no liking for this talk either, but I won't hide my head under a basket till a Terran ferryman comes to cut my throat, and I won't dangle on Fane's pleasure. Not this time. Speak it out plain, peddler. What have you heard, eh? Is this man a false dragon? I can respect Senbui for that. Quite a lot, actually. Clearly, Fane is whipping up a frenzy, bringing very dangerous news, concerning news, ill-omened news, and Senbui's just like, stop with the theatrics and tell us what's up. Stop playing with us. So, for all of his grumpiness in previous chapters, his likability points here are quite high. Fane brushes off the question, who can say until it's over and done, which is a bit of a cop-out. Again, Fane is telling a story, a theatrical story. He's not... There's probably some degree of truth. There probably is war. There's probably someone claiming to be the dragon. But Fane is less interested in the truth of the matter and more interested in the entertainment value of the news, I think. But then we get a little bit of information. Who can say until it's over and done? I do know that he can wield the one power. The others couldn't. But he can channel. The ground opens beneath his enemy's feet, and strong walls crumble at his shout. Lightning comes when he calls and strikes where he points. That I've heard, and from men I believe. So this freaks everyone out. This is unique, and this guy is powerful. And we get some info from Ewan Fingar. He'll go mad and die. In the stories, men who channel the power always go mad, and then waste away and die. Only women can touch it. Doesn't he know that? Only women can touch it. I do recall from the prologue chapter, Luz Theron saying something to the effect of, there's a male counterpart and a female counterpart to the power. We get the Aes Sedai built up a little bit in this chapter as well. And from that, I wonder if, ironic considering I'm under the impression that they only ever tell the truth, I'm wondering if they've found some sort of way to lie about the power. Because if there's power men can touch and there's power that women can touch, but if the male power is dangerous, certainly if it's tainted, if there's concern about what happens when men touch it, it could be perceived as beneficial to hide that power or conceal it, ignore it, dissuade people from accessing it. Again, trying to avoid the taint. And speaking of the Aes Sedai, the conversation continues. It seems that when Ewan brought up women touching the power, he's specifically referencing the Aes Sedai, because Sen states, "You know what kind of woman he's talking about. Stop frowning at me, Luhan, and you too, Kra. This is a decent village of decent folks, and it's bad enough to have Fane here talking about false dragons using the power without this dragon-possessed fool of a boy bringing Aes Sedai into it." So the Aes Sedai, it seems, can use the power without going mad. The Aes Sedai are already into it. A party of them has ridden south from Tar Valon. Since he can wield the power, none but Aes Sedai can defeat him, for all the battles they fight or deal with him once he's defeated, if he is defeated. So it seems that Aes Sedai are moving against this person. I'm trying to reconcile in my mind whether or not that means that the Aes Sedai feel he is the one reborn, or not, because I'm trying to figure out if the Aes Sedai will be adversarial to the One Reborn or not. I have my suppositions based off of half-remembered information I've heard. I'm under the impression Moraine is one of the Aes Sedai, and I think she's good. And I think she's looking to help the Dragon Reborn. Pretty sure, like, this first story is her trying to protect him and uncover who he is. So I'm looking to see specifically how this is gonna play out. Someone shouts out that false dragons are always defeated in the end. Someone's worried he won't be this time. The mayor quiets everyone down again and says, okay, this is dangerous information, so this is city council business, so we're gonna go into the inn right now. We're gonna talk, we're gonna ask questions, and then we'll inform you later. Which may be for the best, because Fane seems to be building up a bit of a ruckus here. Naturally, everyone in the crowd wants to hear what it is that he has to say, so they complain, but at the end of the day, the mayor gets his way, and Fane heads into the inn, and the crowd disperses. Once the crowd disperses, we're left with Rand, Perrin, and Matt. Matt says, I don't see how the Gleeman could beat this. I wonder if we might get to see this false dragon. Perrin responds, I don't want to see him. Somewhere else maybe, but not in the Two Rivers. Not if it means war. And Rand adds, not if it means Aes Sedai here either. Or have you forgotten who caused the breaking? The dragon may have started it, but it was Aes Sedai who actually broke the world. And that was really interesting to me. What did the Aes Sedai do after Lews Therin detonated the nuke? Because I assume the breaking was the nuke detonation. I think. Probably. I'm wondering... He says Aes Sedai. He doesn't say the Forsaken. And the Forsaken were Aes Sedai who, I guess, broke their vows or something. So I'm kind of assuming if they were actually Aes Sedai, they were acting in favor of the light. So maybe they were hunting down the taint or something. I'm very curious how it came to be that they are in this mythology as having actually been the ones to break the world. Matt says, I heard a story once from a Woolbuyer's guard. He said the dragon would be reborn in mankind's greatest hour of need and save us all. Again, that's kind of the chicken or the egg thing, but I've already talked about that. But essentially, for all of these bits of information about how the dragon are the one and the same, it sounds like that there are still some who have faith that the dragon is good and will save the world, which is nice. Glad for it. Because I think that's probably ultimately gonna be true. The conversation continues on with essentially Perrin and Rand wanting whatever danger is happening out in the world to stay out in the world, away from Two Rivers. It's questioned in this conversation whether or not the Aes Sedai are working for the Dark One or for the Light, because the stories differ. Apparently there was someone in the village, Billy Congar, who doesn't believe in the Dark One, so he said the name of the Dark One, and his crops failed, and his family got sick and died. And even though he keeps saying he doesn't believe in it, he's kind of like, oh shit, anytime someone brings up the Dark One since then, and Matt's constantly prodding him, and Nynaeve interrupts the conversation and chastises the group, very rudely in my opinion, for talking about him. And I say very rudely because apparently she wasn't there for Fane's story, so she doesn't know what happened. So from my perspective, it's a little like, you have no clue what you're talking about. You overheard something and decided to come up here of your own volition and chastise us without knowing all the facts. It just came off as a little presumptuous to me, which kind of set the tone for me to be against her. Rude. And then on top of that, there's a little bit of prose that highlights that Nynaeve is a little bit younger than the boys as well. And look, I'm not going to pretend that any of the boys here are adults by any means, but at least be a little bit respectful of people who are older than you. I can be a little more charitable to Nynaeve's point of view on the matter. In a religious society, people talking about the devil, I can get not wanting people to do that. But at the same time, it just felt so rude to me. And I know she's the wisdom, so maybe to a point it is her place. Nevertheless, she could have been a little bit easier on them once she found out that it's not like they were just randomly talking about him, that there is news about the Dark One. And again, to be fair to Nynaeve on this matter, Matt was saying that he kind of bullies Billy about it, which I think it's fair to criticize. but she doesn't need to hold it against Rand as well, and it seems like she does, and that bothers me. So, uncool Nynaeve, but it's not just Nynaeve that's there, so is Egwene. And another point against Nynaeve in my book, she says, if you're done staring like a moonstruck lamb, Rand al'Thor, perhaps you can tell me why you were talking about something even you three great bull calves ought to have sense enough to keep out of your mouths. Again, sounds mean, but not just the name calling. It's like, that's unnecessarily embarrassing. And obviously Rand is awkward AF, and everyone can clearly see, not that he's staring at her, but everyone knows that he likes Egwene, particularly, built upon from previous chapters. So that was mean. That was not necessary. Rand explains that the peddler came, so it was a topic. And then Nynaeve complains that the city council are probably wasting their time asking the wrong questions of the peddler. So not only is Nynaeve rude, kind of mean, but also a bit arrogant, let's say, built upon this fact that she seems to regularly have problems with people. I think Jordan is specifically trying to build a character who is abrasive, seemingly abrasive. Now, I do expect that we will come to get to know her much better over the course of the book. I'm fairly confident in that. I mean, I think she is one of the main characters. So we'll see, but for the moment, she's coming off to me as abrasive. Egwene chastises Rand for getting mixed up in Mat's shenanigans. And by the way, Mat and Perrin are wise enough to step aside and let the two of them talk, which is good. Good on them. Perhaps I'm biased because I'm in Rand's POV. I don't think it's fair to hold him accountable for what Mat was talking about. And it's, as Rand says in the chapter, it's not unreasonable to be talking about it. It's big news right now. Anyway, Rand, my boy Rand, brave Rand, asks Egwene to dance with him by the pool. Sounds to me like he asked her out, and she says in the afternoon. And I guess the way it works is all of the singles do their dancing and singing in the morning. So it sounds like a turning him down, essentially, politely, kind of a thing. That's a big bummer. But she says she'll be busy in the morning, which maybe she will be. So maybe she's not turning him down. But I really do get the sense from this chapter and the rest of this chapter that she's not too interested in Rand, even if I didn't have the Ravens chapter to go by in terms of her being infatuated with Perrin. Rand says, just because someone is old enough to marry doesn't mean they should, not right away. And then she responds, of course not, or ever for that matter. Ever? The never was interesting to me, and without going any further, I think to myself, well, she was very adventurous in the Ravens chapter, so I think it's not beyond possibility that she's thinking about just leaving the town. Sure enough, it goes on to say, a wisdom almost never marries. Nynaeve has been teaching me, you know. She says I have a talent that I can learn to listen to the wind. Nynaeve says not all wisdoms can, even if they say they do. So essentially, it sounds like she's training to be a wisdom, hoping that she'll be able to travel with that knowledge. It sounds like she can listen to the wind. I wonder if Nynaeve can't, and that's part of her, I don't want to say arrogance, because perhaps overcompensating, and perhaps that's why she gets so mad or is so sensitive to people complaining about the weather thing, even though I don't think the weather thing is her fault. And we know that Egwene wants to be the best at everything she does, so I imagine it could be very frustrating for Nynaeve if Egwene ends up outpacing her particularly quickly. Egwene suggests that there are other villages where she could go to become a wisdom, that there are villages that prefer wisdoms from outside so that they don't show favorites. Rand's amusement melts and he says, outside the two rivers, I'd never see you again. And you wouldn't like that? You have not given any sign lately that you'd care one way or the other. No one ever leaves the two rivers. Maybe somebody from Terran Ferry, but they're all strange anyway. Hardly like two rivers folk at all. Egwin gave an exasperated sigh. Well, maybe I'm strange too. Maybe I want to see some of the places I hear about in the stories. Have you ever thought of that? To which Rand responds, Of course I have. I daydream sometimes, but I know the difference between daydreams and what's real. And that pisses off Egwin. Which, I mean, let's be honest, Rand did put his foot in his mouth there. Quite a thing to say. And sadly, Rand didn't quite get how what he had said could have been rude, because he thinks to himself, this was not the first time she had squeezed meanings from his words that he never knew were in them. But that one's not on Egwin. I think that falls squarely on Rand. Poor boy. We find out that Moraine gave Perrin a coin too. So he's in the club. He is a candidate. And he also shares that he saw the black cloaked figure. Very ominous. He did mention it to Master Luhan, and you get the sense that Luhan believed him. Luhan didn't see the black cloaked figure, but after being told about it, he was carrying around his hammer. And he brushes off questions about it by saying, well, there are wolves about. But you really do get the sense that Luhan does believe it, which makes me wonder whether or not Tam believes it. I kind of presume that this may have been what they were talking about earlier, and this new news from Fane is likely to exacerbate serious concern. Egwin wants to know what they're talking about, and she doesn't seem to believe that there's a black cloaked figure, and she kind of unjustly accuses Rand of spreading rumors to scare people, and it's like, where did that come from? Now that's mean. Now I know she's in a bad mood, and not unjustifiably so, but that was unequally mean in response. But then someone with shaggy white hair comes rushing out of the inn. Now, I presume that this is going to be the Glee Man, but no clue. And yeah, another exciting chapter. I'm enjoying the pacing of the story. I'm enjoying the characters. I don't know what else there is to say. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next time. Okay, thanks, bye.